Well, hello, Young and the Restless Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Thursday, October the 27th, 2022. Thursday, October 27th, 2022. Not a lot happening today, really, at all. Okay, it's Chelsea was in a number of scenes, and I'm talking about, you know how we normally see Chelsea. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, hello, Johnny. Blah, blah, blah. When I think that, no, it's hi. Really? It's good to see you too. Hmm. So she's looking around her hotel room, looking at the walls. Ah, maybe I'll go out. So she goes to the park and she's sitting on the bench and oh, uh, so Phyllis walks up. Now Phyllis walks up and Phyllis could see that Chelsea is clearly floundering. Now, Chelsea and Phyllis have never been friends. Chelsea and Phyllis have never been enemies, but they've never been friends, right? So Phyllis is talking to her and she's like, you know what? Clearly, Chelsea, you're searching. I don't even know if she said floundering or sir. And she says, you're going from job to job. You can't stay on one track. And she's like, I could understand how, you give up something that everybody in the world think you were good at, thought it was a good idea, and you give it up, but it doesn't matter. If it wasn't for you, Chelsea, it wasn't for you. She goes, I've given up something too. She says, I gave up my career, my hotel. I feel Phyllis kind of takes a breath, and I thought, girl, you gonna cry? She really did not. She didn't have to sell that hotel, just like it's being managed by somebody else, owned by Chancellor Winters. Phyllis could have hired a manager, period. Okay. And so she goes, I understand people that don't understand decisions you make. She says, but working with your child, working with my daughter it's incredible. It's nothing like working side by side with your child. And then Chelsea's like, yeah, would you, Phyllis? It's been nice catching up. I've got a number of errands that I need to do. And then Phyllis keeps talking to her, and Chelsea's just looking at her, right? And Phyllis is saying, that podcast that you were doing, it was really good. And she was giving her compliments. You were the anchor. You and Billy complimented each other on it. And she goes, yeah, that didn't. She goes, why'd you stop it? She goes, she didn't say Billy did. She goes, that wasn't for us, wasn't meant to keep going. And so Phyllis just looks at her, and then Chelsea's kind of like, okay, gee, have a good Halloween. She goes, have a good Halloween. And Phyllis is like, you too, Chelsea, you too. So Phyllis walks off and she's looking like, whoa, that was a little interesting. Should we all be worried about her? So Chelsea sits back on the park bench. Oh, like what day is it? Oh, oh, just so Phyllis goes to society, and guess who she sees at society? Sally. Now Sally's on the phone. Phyllis is eavesdropping. She hears her on the phone. She's leaving a message for Chloe. Chloe's out of town with her kids. Um, and she's saying, look, we need to talk. You know what we were afraid of happening that could happen at Newman Media? Well, it happened. Let's talk. And Phyllis is thinking like, whoa, you know, I couldn't pick a fight with Chelsea, which she wasn't trying to pick a fight with Chelsea. But Phyllis is energized when she could 1-2 punch you, 1-2 jab you. She loves that, right? So she goes, hey, Sally. And Sally's like, oh my God. of all the people I'd have to run into here, not this chick, right? So Phyllis sits, is this seat taken? And Sally was going to say, no. She goes, I think I'm going to sit here. Sally's like, oh, okay, okay. So Phyllis sits, hey, I heard your conversation. Trouble at work, huh? Well, we knew it was going to come. I mean, Phyllis just was being Phyllis to Sally. And Sally did not engage. Sally did, she was just like, you know what? You don't know what you're talking about. You know what? I'm not going to engage with you. You know, and Sally could have thrown Nick in Phyllis's face. But quite frankly, the only reason Sally didn't throw Nick in Phyllis's face is Sally doesn't truly know where she stands with Nick. Because remember, they were supposed to be stepping back from each other. So you couldn't very well throw that in Phyllis's face, because if she would run to Nick, he'd say, no, we're not seeing each other anymore. So he wouldn't be backing her. So Sally finally had enough of Phyllis's jabs and just little digs at her, that Sally just gets her purse and says, you know what? I'm out of here. And she walks out, and Phyllis is sitting there like, well, my work was done with her. You know, Phyllis was so proud of herself. Um, and then we have, you know, there was some nonsense about Nikki was talking to Victoria. I don't even want to get into that. Victoria was leaving to go get Johnny because they were going to go and get a bite to eat. And then they were going to go to see little Katie at the Halloween parade. So she leaves early. And Nick ends up coming back because he told Sally that she was fired. He told Sally earlier that day. This is before Sally was at society with and ran into Phyllis, or Phyllis ran into her. And he said, I was pulling for you, but ultimately it was Victoria's decision. I don't like it. It was not a decision I would make, but I'm not the boss, right? And so Sally said, well, I always knew it was temporary, or, you know, it was on a trial basis. So she said, it's nice to know that you were in my corner and that you fought for me. And so anyway, now Nick is coming back to the office to tell Victoria, I did the deed. I told her. And Nikki starts questioning him. And she was like, Sally Spectra, really, Nick? Really? And he's like, Mom, it's my business. I'm going to tell you like I told Victoria. It is my business. I am not about to talk about it. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, you are a 40-something-year-old man, right? But this is your daughter's nemesis that did try to wreak havoc, and you were one of the ones that was livid with Sally back then, right? So Nikki just says, and did you even stop to think of how Adam would react to this? She goes, or did you just not care how he would react to it? And he goes, I'm not going to live my life how Adam may or may not react. And then Nikki said, you know, you all have this habit of going after each other's women, and I don't understand it. You know, I don't get it. So she goes, was this just intentional? Really, Nick? But then we have at the end, and this is kind of sad. Johnny and Victoria. Johnny comes first through the park. He's on his phone. Chelsea's sitting on the bench. And she looks up and she sees Johnny walking by. He didn't see her because he's texting as he's walking. And she goes, hi, Johnny. And he stops and he looks at her. How are you, Johnny? How are you? And he's like, are you following me? She's like, no, I didn't know. I had no idea you would be here. And at that time, Victoria is walking around the corner. What's going on here? You know, so what's going on? And so he goes, I asked her, is she following me? And she goes, no, I'm not following him. And so Johnny goes, you know what, Mom? Let's get out of here. I don't want to be here. And so Victoria says, Johnny, go on to Crimson Lights, to the coffee house. Keep your phone on. I will be there shortly. Okay? I want to talk to Chelsea. So I thought, okay, Victoria's going to slice and dice her, right? But and Chelsea stands up And she's looking at Victoria like, okay, you are just a long line of people that are going to let me have it. Go ahead. Let me have it. And so Victoria is kind of looking at Chelsea's demeanor. So she didn't go in for the juggler with anger. Chelsea says, I honestly am not following him. I just happened to be here. And Victoria says, I know you're not. She goes, you had no way of knowing that Johnny and I would be walking through here at this time. She goes, I know you're not, Chelsea. But you see my son's reaction. We're going to respect that he wants nothing to do with you. So if you happen to run into him, walk the other way. Don't say anything to him. Just walk the other way. And Chelsea just looked at her like, and one thing Victoria said, she goes, you know what? I will be forever, eternally grateful to you for bringing my son into this world. But right now, my son is not ready to handle this news. And it will be up to him when he is ready, Chelsea. And as his mother, I'm going to respect his wishes and I'm going to protect him. And Chelsea's just looking at her like, I know. And I'm thinking, okay, somebody needs to call her mom. Somebody needs to get Anita on the line and let Anita know, because Anita is fully recovered, right? Fully rehabbed with that hip. And somebody needs to say, you need to come check on your daughter. See, Chloe hasn't seen Chelsea in a long time. Chloe would know immediately, okay, wait a minute. Some kind of intervention has to happen here, because you're not even really fighting back. You don't even have that instinct to protect yourself. If somebody is going to attack you, you're just barely getting out of bed and you have nothing to live for. And like little Connor said, she forgets to eat. She forget all of that. So no, there is some intervention that needs to happen. I didn't like the way Chelsea did that. Chelsea is delusional, but we have always said Chelsea needs some mental health services. And she's refusing to get it. Refusing. And that is a problem. When someone doesn't see and will not acknowledge that they need help, it's hard to get them that help. Hard, if not impossible. But you do have to keep trying. Adam has to keep trying. Like he said, let's get into couples therapy for Connor. Let's family therapy. Any kind of therapy to get her in. But that hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened at all. So we shall see what's going to happen with Chelsea. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Episode Friday, I think it'll be pretty boring because we don't have nothing really, really going on right now. But we have one comment. Robin says, glad Sally and Adam's son Connor get along. Nate has been very good to the Newman family. Yes, he has. Nate has all along been very good to the Newman family. So that's it. There really wasn't nothing to report on The Young and the Restless today, but I will be back tomorrow for another episode.